Peace, family. I'm down here in Harlem at Schomburg Center at the 8th Annual Black Comic Book Festival. So I'm with Red Pill, as y'all see, man, and we got Black Lightning with us, man. I just want you to talk to the people, man. This is so important. It's so cool what's going on here today. Let the people know exactly what's going on and what you're doing.
All right, cool. So my name is, I can hold it. All right, my name is Wendell. I'm a cosplayer. IG is Wayne's World 30. All right, so basically this is like a celebration of just black comic characters. Everybody talks about inclusion and about how we want, how we matter and how we want to see us represented. So this is the perfect example of this, where there are people that cosplay like myself, or there are people that are fans of comics, or people that are just fans of black things happening. I mean, this is Harlem, you know what I'm saying? So everybody comes and just kind of celebrates together, and this is what it is. It's just a cluster beep of people just kind of celebrating.
Indeed, indeed. Why do you think comics aren't as popular as they were back in the day when we all grew up on comic books?
I think everything is digital now, so that has a huge part to do with it. Another reason is because, I mean, let's face it, reality TV has taken over every type of genre, no matter what it is, whether it's romance, whether it's this, whether it's that. Reality TV has taken over, and it is what it is. This is just the times we live in.
And video games.
Yeah, video games too, yeah.
Do you think the hip-hop culture at this point thinks it's too cool to embrace the comic book culture?
I think from my perspective, I think it's brave for somebody to kind of come out and be like, you know what, I'm into comic books. I was a nerd. I think about, like, when you talk about the hip hop culture, I think about like Megan Thee Stallion, how she was a nerd. She was like, she was into anime and stuff like that. And so I think that it's brave when people do that. I think it's something that, yeah, people do hide because I think they're kind of ashamed of it. But at the end of the day, everybody needs superheroes, whether they are pretend or whether they are real people. You need superheroes to kind of follow and try to be like.
Indeed, indeed. How important is it, do you think it is, for a person to maintain their imagination? When we're young, we have imaginary this, imaginary that. We do all types of imaginary stuff, but once we get to a certain age, we get rid of all of that. Do you think it's important we maintain that childlike ability to have a strong imagination?
Absolutely. I think imagination itself is just important, because I feel like if you can't imagine it, you can't make it come to be. I think especially for adults, like, why would you feel like you need to stay stuck into, whether it's a 9 to 5 or whether it's a job that you hate, whether it's Burger King, who knows? Like, why should you feel like you can only do that when you can do so much more? So I think it's important to just be able to imagine yourself other places. So it's important to, of course, imagine comics and things like that.
Thank you. You want to leave the people with any contact information?
Again, it's Wayne's World 30 on Instagram. Wendell Cosplays is the hashtag, 2 L's, and that's pretty much it.
All right, thanks a lot, brother.
All right.
All right.
I'm John Stewart and the Green Lantern. Don't confuse me with the guy from the Daily Show. Different John Stewart.
So what's the power? What powers does Green Lantern have?
I have willpower. My ring, anything I will happens.
Indeed, indeed. Now, Mfundishi, what's good, brother? So why is that important, do you think, for our community to understand the importance of willpower? Why is that important?
Well, it's important for our community because we haven't had power for a long time. We only just got our first black president and then look at us replaced by. So we really, power is something that comes and goes, something we've got to learn to hang on to.
Indeed.
Once you get it, hold on to it.
Indeed, indeed. Why do you think comic books are important in 2020?
Comic books are good for, it gives you heroes, gives you fantasy is good. Imagination is good. Otherwise, life is boring. What are you going to do? Just eat mayonnaise sandwiches all day? That's what happens if you don't read comic books. You just eat mayonnaise. Did you know that?
Indeed.
This is a fact.
What would you say if somebody
said by Green Lantern? Go ahead, ask a question.
What would you say if somebody says you're too old to be into comic books?
That's their problem. I am also too old to have someone tell me what to do. So I could care less if someone thinks what I'm too old to do, whatever.
Indeed. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Do you have any contact info you want to leave for the people? Anything?
Yeah, so you can contact me through the Justice League. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Hello there, I am Black Adam. Supposedly the
evil Shazam, you might say, Captain Marvel's mortal enemy. I'm supposed to be as mighty as the mightiest Marvel 5,000 years ago. I was the protector of Earth. But somehow my powers, I started to do ancient sorcery, and I became evil. But now in the time of 2020, I wear the cape of redemption. Bringing it back around to be good again.
Yes, sir.
That seems to be the air these days. A lot of people who were evil in the 80s are turning good. So
Yes.
you're in alignment.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, I'm asking everybody, why are comic books in the fantasy world important, you think, to the community today?
It gives people the power to imagine. They'll be able to create their own characters. Now DC has created theirs, Marvel is continuing doing theirs. When you see people here creating their own stuff, which is something we all have to do, and I've always been inspired by that. I'm not much of an artist, but I'm definitely an actor.
Right,
so the best way I can find my way to bring my creativity is to become the character itself.
Embody it. Right.
And embody it so I can be that character.
Amazing, amazing. Any information you want to leave the people? Do you want them to contact you or anything?
I can be contacted. I'm on Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram, kcarter5392k3. That I can be found on there where my pictures. I'm a cosplayer and also an actor and voiceover artist, and hopefully get to work with whomever out there. I'm basically I'm for hire.
Indeed. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Wear it.
Woo.
Strapped up.
Yo, that's serious. That's serious.
Very
man.
serious. What's the name of that weapon?
This is called the Tri-Barrel Blaster of a very first Man Black movie. And when I shot the flying saucer, I stopped the Egger, the giant cockroach, from escape from planet Earth while he's holding the galaxy.
I am King Lionel of Thundera, New York, and I am dressed as King Lionel of the Thundercats 2011, also known as Lionel 2020.
All right, all right. So what's your power, man? What's your power?
Well, I don't have any powers, but I have like speed as a cat, and I can run fast, and I can catch innocent people from evil. And my enemy is Mumra, the Ever Living. He destroyed my people many years ago for the millennia, and my ancestor, he defeated Mumra. My ancestor's name is Leo. He has like large mane, and he wears like a power suit. And he defeated Mumra many years ago in the millennia. He has his 3 power stones on this claw shield. He only has 3 power stones, but one's missing. And he carries a legendary sword, also known as the Sword of Omens, hewn from the sacred enchanted metal known as Mumra's sword and gauntlet, and is carried with the Eye of Thundera, similar to Mumra's sword, also known as the Sword of Plunder.
Thunder. 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 Thundercats. Thunder, 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 cats.
Find me on my Instagram, Lord of Thundercats. Find me.
Thanks a lot, man. How you doing? Let the people know exactly who you are.
My character today is Wonder Woman.
And what are you? So what is your? What are you hoping to achieve by, doing the cosplay and doing Wonder Woman? Like, what does that do for the youth today? You think, and just for everybody in general to see a melanated Wonder Woman?
Just to know we're out here, and to encourage more people to be a part of my cosplay meetup, the NYC Cosplay Meetup. You can find us on Facebook and at Instagram at The Cosplay Meet. So to get more people to come out and encourage,
Why? Yeah, go ahead, Red. You gotta hold the mic, Red. You got it.
How do I just saw a young girl come up to you, and she was just in awe and everything. So how did the youth receive you when they see you in your Wonder Woman costume?
It's awesome. Part of the reason I cosplay is because I want attention, so it's great to have it from the little girls. I get a lot of it from guys, obviously, but, I like being that oddity, and that people look at me and take pictures, and that's pretty much opportunity to show my creativity,
How important, the theme that I hear everybody talking about is the importance of the imagination. So how important you think it is to maintain a childlike imagination as an adult in this world?
I think it's the only way to get through tough times is to know that there's something else out there, and whether you call it faith, whether you call it God, whether you call it creativity or imagination, they're all parts of that same branch of the same tree.
Indeed, indeed. And what about like the Black Panther? How did you feel about that when that released? Was you like, you know?
Oh, I cosplayed it 3 times.
Yeah? Wow.
I did Shuri. Oh,
you did?
Yes,
Okay.
because I'm a princess. Hello.
Okay. I hear you. Well, I appreciate your time. I definitely appreciate your time. Did you leave your contact info?
The cosplay meetup is the Cosplay Meet. My personal one is Sci-Fi L on Instagram as well as on Facebook.
Redman, what you thinking about so far, man? We here at the
Black Comic
Book Convention. The eighth annual Black Comic Book Convention in Schaumburg. Yeah.
I've been here about 4 years, 3 or 4. As you can see, you know, anything that is showcasing our people's creativity, anything that's showcasing their imagination, you'll see in the B-roll, there's multiple comic book artists and illustrators and whatnot. So just to see them being celebrated and being supported is, you know, I'm an artist, so it does something for me. You know what I mean? It encourages me to get back into the craft.
Do you feel like a weirdo if you embrace the comic book culture? Like, say you meet a sister and y'all kicking and vibing, would you feel like kind of strange to tell her that you into comic books or something like that?
Well, not now, not in 2020. It's been embraced because I believe the Marvel Universe, via when they took it to the movies and whatnot, the silver screen, they popularized comic books. Prior to that, video games were kind of like making it more accepted. So I could speak from when I was younger. As a teenager, it was a little bit, it was kind of awkward, you know what I mean? I bring girlfriends over, we had comic books all on our walls and whatnot, and they'd be like, what's that?
Wow.
Like, that's Spider-Man. Like, where you from? You're not an ADOS.
So why do you think it's important for us to maintain, and we was asking people this, a childlike imagination at the age of 30, at the age of 40, even at the age of 50 and 60?
Oh, man.
A childlike imagination.
Be like a child, you know. An imagination, imagination, you know, that's the faculties that we have to basically create. You know, we could create ourselves out of poverty. We could create ourselves out of inferiority. We could imagine ourselves out of this situation that we're in, because to be honest with you, whoever created the scratch hip hop, Grandmaster Flash and whatnot, whoever innovated the turntable, they had to have a level of imagination. When you look at Melly Mel and all of them, the way that they were dressed, they were influenced by Afrofuturists such as Sun Ra and, you know, Pharoah Sanders and whatnot. So they were not subscribing. You know, people look at the way that they were dressed and they try to attribute some kind of LBGT title on them. But I'm like, no, that was their imagination. They were cosplaying, they were Afrofuturists in the mid-70s and whatnot. If you look at the way that Bambaataa was dressed and whatnot, the way that the Zulus were dressed, they were tapping in and they were doing electric music. And that music was the seeds of Florida hip-hop. That was the seeds of Atlanta hip-hop and things like that. They were heavy on the electric music. They were heavy on that whole genre and whatnot. So imagination is what brings us where we are right now. Our people are some of the most, we have some of the most powerful imaginations on this planet, you know.
Yeah, man. I every time I think about all the books I've read, Red Pill, and all the, you know, everything I've got into in my years of just embracing consciousness, the thing that helped me the most manifest was just raw imagination. Just raw imagination, bro. Like, no,
raw, straight that.
Yeah.
Being able to, you know, see yourself or visualize yourself in a place where where society tells you you can't go or you shouldn't be. So you know, to be into consciousness, Rich, you have to have an imagination. To read Dr. York's scrolls in the 80s before the internet.
Planet Ritz.
Planet Ritz. To read Zachariah Sitchin, Sitchin and David Icke and all of them. To understand and to follow what Bobby and them were talking about in African mythology, right? To be able to not just read it, but to become it. Right? To go into the metropolitan museums and touch the tombs of the Kemetic ancestors, you have to have your imagination intact. You know, you can't be stuck inside of organized religion or you know, what they taught you in school. You would have to be able to venture forth in your mind. And like you said, that's what got me in a place where I feel like I'm free now.
Indeed, man. What you think about what you see so far, man? Some people, some people would say, you know, it's a little weird seeing this.
Yeah.
Do you look at it as that? How do you look at it? Do you feel at home here? How do you feel here?
The whole world is weird now, Rich. Weird is cool, right? Weird is in. The new normal is to be abnormal in a sense. Like we're considered abnormal. Those of us who are normalized, who see things from a certain lens.
Right.
So to be in a place like this where the big word that you're here today is cosplay. So you have individuals who are living vicariously through characters. They're losing themselves inside of the character. And if the character was, you know, on some, you know, if they were infinite with their strength. I'm waiting to see a Dr. Manhattan. I haven't seen one yet. But if they were one of the strongest characters in the DC universe, like a Dr. Manhattan, you could have someone who's naturally timid, right? And now they get into the costume, they cosplay, and the costume brings out a part of them that may be dormant. You know, so some people are introverted, but when you throw in that costume, you become extroverted. Now I'm Wolverine. I'm running around ready to cut something.
Sort of like Beyonce and Sasha Fierce. Like
Beyonce jumping into Sasha Fierce, Sean Carter jumping into Jay-Z, Christopher Wallace, the kid who was in quote-unquote Catholic school, jumping into the Notorious B.I.G. They're cosplaying in hip-hop. The 50 Cent was cosplaying the real 50 Cent. You understand? So that goes back to imagination. The fantasy industry is a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and we not realizing that we every day we're a part of that. You on Netflix? Oh, you Netflix and chilling? Oh, nah, that's imagination right there. Oh, you know what I'm talking about? You dealing with rap? You listening to the rap music? Those individuals will admit to you if you talk to them, if you listen to some of their podcasts, they're cosplaying. They're not necessarily who they say they are, and that's not a crime. You know, that's not a crime because Fantasy Island is where a lot of us live on. You know what I'm saying? The problem with some people is they haven't monetized it. They have not made that a living. Whereas Stan Lee did and Jack Kirby and all of them, they made it a living. You know, so I wouldn't call it weird. I would call it eccentric. You dig what I'm saying? But it's cosplaying. When I walked in here, I want to see something different. I don't want to be with the cool people right now. I want to be with people who are basically on a different spectrum, you know, because I find genius in some of that.
Do you think we all should have a character that we tap into? Like how I mentioned, Beyonce taps into Sasha Fierce. Should everybody have a character or alter ego? Let me say that. Should everybody have an alter ego that they tap?
I knew a nigga named Bartholomew, but he was Killer Black. Alter egos are great, right? Alter egos will allow you not to have a super ego. And not to be an egomaniac because you now have an outlet to express yourself in your ego. Twin is an ego. Red Pill is an ego. That's an alter ego to Philip Moreland. You dig what I'm saying? Philip Moreland is similar to Red Pill, but we're not the same people at the end of the day. When I'm Red Pill, I'm cosplaying Red Pill. I'm cosplaying a character. I'm an entity. But I'm tapping in, I'm tying in that character to the mythology, to an African mythology. I'm tied into the Orishas. I'm tying that into a spiritual entity that's all powerful. You know what I mean? I'm tying that into the matrix, the aspect of the Red Pill being about information, being about consciousness, being about, you know, all consciousness. that's who I embody. So I think for mental health purposes, and I feel like for, just for our imagination, in order to grow, alter egos are healthy. That's a super fact. Know when to turn it off though. Because Superman wasn't Superman all day. He had to become Clark Kent unless he'll burn himself out. You can't be in your alter ego all day.
Right.
The rappers who are in their alter ego all day, who talked about the box? Wasn't that Will Smith on the interview? When he says that we get trapped in the box that we created, the alter ego that we create, sometimes we don't know how to get out of that box. We could get trapped in our alter ego, and that becomes a prison now. Because everywhere you go, Curtis Jackson has to be 50 Cent. And dudes is grilling him and acting tough, and he like, fam,
you just want to chill.
I'm at a meeting, like we're talking about power. Yeah. Why is the why the lawyers ice grilling me? I'm not here to be tough right now. So you got to know when to turn it on and off.
I appreciate your time, my brother.
Thank you, sir.
Peace, family, man. Look who we done ran into, man. None other than the master teacher himself, Mfundishi, man. Good to have you back on the platform, my brother.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure to be here.
So what brings you to the 8th annual Black Comic Festival here in Schaumburg today?
Well, I basically come every year. When my son was small, I taught him how to read with the Black Panther series in the 1980s.
Wow. Okay.
So he's been a collector of comic books since the 80s. So as a supporting father, I'm into it too. So I support, so we can talk about it. We talk about history. We talk about collections like that. So plus, I like the idea of black entrepreneurship. So anytime I see African people taking their art into their own hands, you have many of the illustrators here, you have the writers here, you have the artists here, they're publishing their own work. I'm a component of that. Let's do that. Let's make things happen. Let's economically take control of our venue.
That's right.
Okay, if you're a master of that, be the master of it. From production, from thought to production to distribution. And so every year I come here and I support these brothers. I drop $300-400 on. I just give me your whole series. Give me your series. Give me your series. Because you might blow up, and I got your series.
Right. Right.
Plus, it's an investment. And the center we're building in Ghana, I'm having a whole visual aid section where kids can come in and they can see our 500-600 collection of all black comic books.
Right.
So they need to see themselves as the heroes and the sheroes. So I do it as a collector myself. I did it to support my son, and I did it to contribute. And these actually artists, I want to contribute what little bit I have and pass the word on. Like I told 20 brothers, be here and bring your children.
That's right.
Dope.
That's right.
Why is we've been talking to everybody about the imagination today, and if you was to ask somebody who's into cultural studies or black studies, and imagination may not be at the top of the list. They may talk about economics. They may talk about a list of other things that we need to focus on. But imagination may not be at the top of the list. Is imagination at the top of the list of the things that we need to work on?
Yes.
And if so, why?
Imagination is definitely on the top. In all of the books, it says people perish from a lack of vision. Mm-hmm. You need to see yourself successful. You need to imagine yourself ruling a nation. You need to see yourself undefeated. I used to tell people, if you get beat up in your own dreams, then you finish. You at least need to be the hero in your own dreams.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you wake up sweating because you just got yoked up in your dream, brother, you need to revamp. You're doing something wrong.
Oh, man.
You got to get your vision right.
Indeed.
And so, yes, the imagination takes you places. And there's no end to imagination. See, there's an end to what you think your skills are, but there's no end to imagination. And we got to visualize ourselves being dynamic, liberated people again.
That's right.
And that's where the imagination and the vision is. You got to see it. You got to feel it. You got to taste it and changes.
One thing also about the imagination, and this is deep, when you really tap into your imagination and you tap into like this alter ego, I've seen brothers become invisible from the Lord. whether they're doing crimes, whatever they're doing. I think even Red talked about that when the polo days when y'all used to go into the or something you used to say and y'all used to, you know what I'm saying, but cloak yourselves, yeah. So it's deep. I guess we're using imagination for fear instead of the right things.
Yes.
But talk to me about, because that's a deep concept to be invisible. You like in your imagination you're invisible, and really people can't see you when you really believe that. Well, how do you feel about people who speak on that?
If you can think it and you believe it, you can achieve it. Do you understand that? I think that sums the whole thing up. A person is as he thinketh. You thinketh you are invisible. You believe you are invisible. You believe you can't be touched. That begins to happen. And that's in every facet of life.
Every facet.
Every facet of life.
Right.
So we have to change, I'm a component of symptomatic thinking. So once you start thinking symptomatically, then you begin to change the people who are just only thinking symbolically.
Indeed.
So you have the power. We're not using our power. And we created this whole concept. And somebody hijacked it. Now we think we imitating them.
It's crazy, right? They done reversed
You
it.
ever watch the Medu Nature? The figures walk. They got the reed leaf, got feet, it's walking. They got the pool of water, it's walking. So the whole idea of animation, cartoons, and stuff like that is an ancient Kemetic concept. Look at the glyphs. You got glyphs walking. The reed, like I said, you got different things interacting with people, just like these comic books have.
And story and tell is the oldest story told. Correct?
Yes. So on the wall, in fact, if you're at the temple in Waset, the temple of Amen, and you look across the wall real quick, it's an animation. You see movement. You see a fight between Haru and Set. And each freeze is different.
Wow.
That's all a book is.
That's all. Yeah. That's what a movie is. Yeah. Frozen frames.
Right.
And
and then people, Mfundishi, why you into ancient Kemet? And I laugh when people ask me that question. My question is, why aren't you not? When that's the foundation of everything we are doing today. Everything that's relevant, whether it's scientific or not. I mean, even Tesla invented electricity by studying ancient Kemet.
The Ankh, right?
So yes,
the Ankh,
so we got to. This whole country was set up by people who were studying ancient Kemet. You're not nobody in the European world of philosophy unless you studied ancient Kemet. But then they question us by studying our own ancestors. So, brother, I'm here to support these brothers. Every year I'm here. I came yesterday. I'm back again today. And we have to believe that we can achieve it.
What do you when do you think, how can I say this? It gets to a point where you have such a strong imagination as a child. Like me and Red were just watching this young dude, and he had like the claw, the Thundercat claw, and he was like completely tapped in. Like you couldn't tell him nothing. Like he looked like he really thought this thing was real. Like really thought this thing was real. How do you feel? Is it kind of like, because it seems as though our parents is the one that brainwashes us the most for society, gets us prepped and primed for white supremacy and the school system or whatever it is that's going to brainwash us. So do you blame is the parents to blame, or do they get a pass?
Well, even at the Board of Education in New York and in New Jersey, it says parents is the #1 component of a child's education. Public school is secondary. It's the parent is the #1 job. And let me just say this here. This imagination thing. Imagination is the key to invention.
Indeed, yeah. We were just talking about that, yes.
It's the key to all inventions. You got to perceive it first. Then you create it. So if you ain't got an imagination, invention stop. And let me just say this here. Once you put a thought out into the air, it can be grabbed by somebody else.
That's very true.
That's why when I got a patent on my first book, they gave me like 10 patents. So when I'm thinking of the next book, I can just write it in and send it in. Because as soon as I thought of it, somebody in South Africa thinking of the same thing. Because I put that energy out in the air. It's like an antenna. So they give you that list of patents so that you ain't got to be running back down to the office and everything. I already got my list of patents. I put my number, I send it in.
Yo, me and Kambada talk about that all the time. If we come up with an idea, we be like, yo, we better hurry up and move on it because somebody gonna grab it.
Somebody gonna move on it.
Somebody gonna grab it from the ethers.
That's
yeah,
real.
no, that's real. Yeah, somebody.
Somebody created. You say I thought of that. Yes.
But you know what happens? What happens is you would swear that that person stole it from you somehow.
Yeah. But you put it out there.
And you put it out. Yeah, yeah.
You put it out there. You put it out there.
Wow, this
A person, you got another person. Let me just say, there's portals and PowerPoints all over the place. You step into a grid. Whoa, what was that? What was that? Oh, I'm going to do that. You think it's your idea. I didn't hijack your idea. I don't even know you.
Different environment. Yeah.
Thought travels faster than the speed of sound. So on the ley lines or the grids, like the parallels, 44th, 33rd, you could be on a beach somewhere under the sun meditating on an island somewhere, but somebody on the same parallel but across the planet, like you said, was thinking of something, and because it travels faster than sound, boom, as you on the beach chilling, thinking, oh, let me write this down. You got a bar. You got a movie idea, a book idea, a design idea. So nothing is, we don't own our thoughts. This is coming from a higher place.
Well, with that being said, I'm glad Red brought up that concept. So we're not really creating nothing. We're simply downloading from the universe. Is that the right way to say it?
Universe. You put a new cover on it.
Just put a new cover on it.
You put a new cover on an old thought. That's already been bouncing around, and it finally got to you, and you say, yeah.
So you mean to tell me every thought that could ever be thought already exists?
Everything, yesterday, today, and tomorrow is all happening now.
Simultaneously.
Is that what the Big Bang was about, that they refer to as the Big Bang?
I don't know if that's the Big Bang. The Big Bang, it might be something else. But yesterday, today, and tomorrow is always happening. You might have a grandmother, and your grandmother say, son, don't go on that trip. I just saw it, and it was a bad thing happening. You go, oh, grandma, that's superstition. You missed the bus. The bus went off the cliff and killed everybody. But you wasn't on there. Did grandma really see that? Did that really happen? Was she tapped into that? So that was yesterday. I mean, that's tomorrow. She saw tomorrow. You see, even this conversation we're having is already history. Because time is not stagnant. In fact, Jehuti and the glyphs tell us that we're trying to study nature in a freeze when nature's already moved past that.
It's involved.
So you think you study it, oh, I got to picture that. I know what that looks like. No, it's already changed. So you got to be tapped into the change, and that's where the imagination comes. I know what was, I know what is, and I know what can be. And there's multiple futures based upon how you grasp that.
So I guess that's what, because an obvious question someone would ask is, well, shit, how do I tap into this and get these downloads? Is that what meditation is for?
When you see, meditation is listening. Prayer is speaking. And who are you speaking to? That nature within you. Because if you think you're speaking to somebody in the sky, taking notes, then you're welcome to the matrix. Because that's exactly where you are. You're in the matrix. No, yes, so prayer, meditation, that's why positive affirmations are so important. You speak it first thing in the morning, you speak it every time you think about it, and you speak it the last thing before you go to bed. So that's what's on your mind. You being successful, you accomplishing what you want.
So I guess when you're meditating, you should just be quiet, like complete silence.
Yes, silence is golden. You heard people say that a million times.
Yeah. And so why is it so hard in this society, do you think, for, I see brothers that's able to do 500 push-ups, but for them just to sit still for 10 minutes and be quiet, hard as hell for them.
Yeah.
Logically, we would think the 500 push-ups is harder. Why is this being silent and being still so hard in today's society?
I had a student, Tiger Joe Spooner, Mr. America, Mr. Mexico, was one of my students. His arm looked like he had watermelons tapped into his arm. He can do curls with 400 pounds. He couldn't stand in Olenwingo and meditate for 1 minute.
For 1 minute.
1 minute, he could, because my beginning class is
What's
10
that?
minutes.
What is this called? What is
This is
that?
called Olawingo.
Olawingo.
I'm embracing the universe.
You're embracing the
It's a
universe.
standing meditation.
Yes.
A standing meditation. So all my students, as a beginner student, you got to do it for 10 minutes. Tiger Joe Spoon to come in. Oh, I got that. It took him 3 or 4 months before he could do 5 minutes. After 6 months, he was able to do the 10, 15, 20 minutes, and his whole thing changed. Then after that, he became Mr. North America, went on to be Mr. Universe, you know, things that, so I'm just saying, he had to learn how to tap into his inner strength. He had the outer strength,
Yes.
but he didn't have the inner strength. And once he got that, his whole training moved to another level.
So if I'm fighting and I'm a fighter, am I using my muscle or am I using this chi energy that I keep hearing
You're
about?
using a projection of your will.
I'm using a projection of my will.
Yes, sir.
So it's not the outer muscle.
Not the outer muscle. I would advise you to work out, though.
Yes.
Okay, so don't just meditate only. You meditate. It's like there's an old Islamic saying. It says, "You come to your destination, you pray to Allah, but you tie your camel down so to be there when you come out." So yes, don't stop praying, but tie your camel down. So you going in, you meditating, but you better do some training also. So
Right.
they have to be equal.
Balance. You
Wow.
gotta feel like you're gonna win.
Right.
Because if the other person is only training, and you're training and meditating, and you're on a spiritual level, no, you got the advantage over them.
So you just showed us the position, the standing meditation
Right,
position.
Olawingo.
We're talking about downloaded from the universe.
Yes, sir.
So now I see different standing meditating positions. Like some people do the standing tree. Is that the standing tree or something like that?
Yeah.
So you know how like when we was young, we had the antennas on the TV, and depending on how you move the antenna, you will pick up different signals. So I'm assuming the different positions of our bodies pick up different signals from the universe.
Yes, the only reason why I love Olawingo is because it challenges every part of your body. See, when you're standing,
Is that tied to like what's Olawingo? What's that thing that Ty and Blue Pill do? What's that called? I don't know. Damn, I forget.
see
But go
what
ahead,
happens, it challenges the weakest part of your body. If your arms is the weakest part, if your back is the weakest part, you start feeling the back. If your legs is weak, so it tells you. It doesn't lie. It tells you the weakest part of your body, so you know what to work on. And the idea is that when I can stand here for half an hour, everybody who's gotten a black belt from me, that's part of their black belt test. Harun Naket has been the last black belt I had. He's a master now. He took his test in Egypt, on the Nile, 100 and something degrees. Olawingo.
Olawingo.
And you do the half an hour before you do the rest of the test. Because if you ain't got the discipline, I don't even want to see you fight or the other stuff. So after you passed Olawingo, now let's see your form, let's see all the other stuff, let's see the information, now let's do the philosophy, you know, boom. So that's the first thing I test you on. Do you have discipline and focus?
Wow, we talking about this inner strength, Red. This inner muscle.
And we call
this
it
inner muscle.
secum. The secum. The Chinese call it chi, Japanese call it ki, the Indians call it piranha, Swahili we say the moyo, and in Medu Necha it's the secum.
Damn. Mfundishi, man, this has been powerful, my brother. The imagination, the inner strength, that projection of the will. I like how you said that. I know the people gonna definitely love this, man. I'm glad you're here today. I'm glad you're showing support to these brothers and sisters out here. I want you to leave your contact info for the people so they can get in touch with you.
They can reach me at mfundisijahutimus@gmail.com. Or they can go on my webpage, www.mfundisijahutimus.com. Ankh Uja Senebneb. Dua Necha.
Thank you, brother. Peace.